But yeah, that's my update.
Thank you for the
Yeah, no
update.
problem.
Go dogs. I am going to do my best to maintain my energy, y'all. But if it starts to go low, I start slurring my words, let me know. Because low iron is trying to take me out. And I feel like I have been doing all the things and it's not working. So bear with me. But how are y'all doing? How you doing? What are your numbers looking like for today? My numbers. I want to say threes. I'm not even there. I want to say I'm a nice 1.5 across the board. Well, that's not fair. I have been doing my basics. Okay. I would say focus, 3, openness, 5, peace, 4, scholar basics. I would say 5. Okay, I'm gonna be fair to myself. My energy is real low. My energy is on the floor. It's below the floor. But it's all right. We here and I'm happy that y'all are here with me. I am going to be talking about things. So I know some of y'all are going to be working in the background. That's completely fine. If you don't have your energy is where my energy is, it's okay to just listen to this. I invite you to listen to this spiel that I have prepared. I did this last time in August, so I felt like it was a great time to bring it back. But listen to this, and you may have things that come up for you. I do have some questions, but after that, you may have things that come up for you. You may have some ahas. Your brain may want to fight me. Okay, I want you to write all of that down somewhere because we're gonna come back and revisit it. Because I hope that we have, after I do my spiel, that this can lead us to a more fruitful conversation. But I also understand if you don't have the energy to do that. Okay. I've moved. Water is okay. Sleep is good. But writing and eating hasn't been the best today. Wait, where's your roommate? They give roommates jobs. Wait, where's your roommate?
My roommate's in Atlanta.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
So I'm feeding his cat who's driving me nuts right now.
Well, you could go to Whole Foods. I mean, I know other stores do this too, but I definitely know Whole Foods does this, where they put meal kits, like they're hot bar and chicken and vegetables. You go pick up a pan for 10, I think it's like $15 or something, and that'll last you for a couple of days. And at least you know it's healthy and it won't bounce you out of anything.
Yeah. I mean, I've been eating, it's just been out of a bag and not good. Like I was doing so well for 2 months of only getting fast food breakfast, but today I had fast food again.
Hey, you're at the end. You're at the end. Okay, y'all. If you're following along with me, whether you're on Instagram, YouTube, on this call, this is our open office hours for Finish Your Dissertation Institute. Here is what I want you to think about. I want you to think back to your last writing session. If that was today, it was yesterday, if it was 3 months ago, doesn't matter. Think back to the last time you said, I'm going to work on doctoral things. I want you, as much as you can remember, to write out what happened during that session. Where were you? What did you say you were going to do? How did the time actually go? You see my example here? It says like 1 p.m. I took out my stuff. 1:30, I was reading some articles and taking notes. This ain't got to be perfect. We just need to know an idea of what that session looked like for you. For my people who like to work smarter and not harder and skip steps, you want to list this out. Okay, you don't have to give me as many details. You don't even have to show me because I'm probably not going to be able to see it. This is for you because I'm going to walk you through a thing and it will be helpful if you have these details there. This third point, how productive were you during the session? That is up to you to determine. However you define productivity, I want to know in general how you were feeling, how you were thinking about that session when it was over and you decided to pack up your stuff and walk away. How would you describe your productivity during that session? And how do you know? What evidence are you using to say whether you were productive or not? So evidence is like, well, I was productive because I said I was going to write 3 paragraphs, and I wrote 3 paragraphs. Or I was productive because I said I was going to organize my Zotero and I did that. Or I was productive because I said I was going to schedule a meeting with my chair and I scheduled that meeting. That's when I say what evidence. That's what I'm talking about. And here's a slight aside while y'all are writing your responses. I often ask this question when I'm coaching people of how do you know that to be true? And you will look at me if you're coaching with me. And at first you will say, it's true because it's true. That's what happened. But just because you say that's what happens, just because that's how you remember it happening, and just because that's how you describe it happening doesn't make any of those things factual. But we're going to get into that. And if you get into a practice of saying, I know because of these things, when that voice that pops up in the back of your mind tries to tell you you didn't do anything, you're not making real progress, you have real things to point back to say, actually, here's my list of evidence. Okay. So Danielle said yesterday from 8 to 12, like 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. I did palms. I did palms, and I've been following the steps from your final chapters outline. As a side note, for the 10 pages in 2 days writing retreat, it's going to be focused on final chapters because I feel like most of y'all are writing your final chapters, and we just going to finish this semester off with a bang and talk about it. I felt good about my productivity because I followed your steps, converting to past tense, defining things, cleaning up citations, etc. PM. I was being funny. I mean, you could have been working from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. You know, you are at the end. But interviews and you're still getting your workout in. I count that as a win. Sir is here too. And I've been, y'all, somebody come get a little sir because we have been to the vet more than I wanted to be in these past couple of weeks because somebody decided to eat things that he shouldn't eat. But we're here. All right, scholar stories. And if you are following along with me on social media, let me know. Put your responses in the chat as much as you feel comfortable. All right. So, and finish your dissertation, right? Or if you come to the 10 pages in 2 days writing retreat, I give you a process, scholar planning routine to like, how do I organize my 10 hours every week? I give you a process, scholar writing routine of how you write 10 pages in less than 10 hours or over 2 days, whatever you prefer. And we have a process for communicating with your chair. Meaning, you know the technical things to do to get to the end of the dissertation. What I want to talk about tonight is what is the work that you're doing, or I want to invite you to think about what is the work that you are doing to feel like a doctor. A lot of people think, if I start making progress and I start, my chair and I start discussing the final defense, I'm going to feel like a doctor. Or when my chair tells me those magical words, congratulations, doctor, I'm going to feel like a doctor. Or when I'm on that graduation stage and I'm being hooded, I'm going to feel like a doctor. And I want to tell you, even though I say this often and people do not believe me, I'm going to tell you again, you can go through all those things and be beyond graduation and still not feel like a doctor. Because feeling like a doctor, meaning owning the identity of doctor, is an inside job. You can have all the evidence in front of you, but there can still be a bigger part of you that's like, I don't feel it. I don't know why they keep calling me doctor. I'm telling y'all, for a solid 2 years, I was like, who are they talking to? They keep saying Dr. Lacy. I don't know. I don't understand. And then I got to a place where I would just tolerate being like, okay, I know that's my name, so I'm gonna respond to it, even though I don't feel like it. But it took a while to get to like, oh no, but for real, I'm a doctor. And that's not just about responding to the title. It's also when someone comes to you and they say, Danielle, we're having this sports management thing, or we want to be talking about this, like we want to write this book about the WNBA. If you don't feel like the doctor you are or the expert that you are, you may shy away from it. You might be like, isn't there somebody else? I know so-and-so writes about this. You should go get so-and-so. And you may talk yourself out of an opportunity because you think you're not like name whoever person on X or Threads or whoever you're following that you think is a big name in the field. You may not feel like you match that level of expertise. And so you may talk yourself out of some opportunities because you don't feel like a doctor. %, and this is me, somebody's gonna come get me, okay? The quant people, right? I could find a citation. Listen, I could find a citation for most things. I'll give a range. 60 to 80% of our thoughts, feelings, and habits are automatic. Why? Because our brains don't like learning new things. Our brains are like, how can life be as easy as possible? How can we be on autopilot as much as possible? That is what your brain is trained to do. Your brain, all of our brains, loves efficiency. So if you do something repeatedly, your brain goes, make that automatic. So if you wake up and you reach for your phone the first thing in the morning and you start scrolling on TikTok for 3 hours and you do that every day, you know what your brain says? Oh, they must really like this. This must be really important to them. Let me put that on autopilot. And that's how we get to a place where you're trying to break the habit of picking up your phone first thing in the morning and you wake up, but before you know it, before your eyes are all the way open, you're already scrolling. Why? Because your brain loves to be efficient. So it's already telling you to grab it before you fully wake up. If you want to change your identity, do something different, you have to focus on how you think, how you feel, and how you act. Most of us focus on our behaviors, but we are like, how I think and how I feel doesn't matter. It does. Because how you see yourself, who you believe yourself to be, determines how you show up and behave every day. Let me say it again. How you see yourself, how you think about yourself, how you answer the question of who am I, determines how you show up and behave every day. So if you are someone who is, I'm just still learning, I'm just still trying to figure it out, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to say, then you know what you do? You show up to your writing session and you read and you reorganize your notes and you make a new plan because you're someone who's just figuring it out. But if you are someone who's like, no, I'm a doctor, I know this, I can write this easily, you show up and you write it easily. I'm not sitting here saying if you just simply think positive, then positive things will happen. I am saying the more intention you put behind how you define yourself, who you believe yourself to be, the stronger your habits would be in the direction you want them. Okay, let me pause. Dr. Lee Johnson, how are you? Congratulations. Wait, we can't hear you. Okay, there we go.
I did, y'all. I did it. I'm not gonna do it. I'm just thinking about it.
You did it. You did it. Come on, doctor in our caps. Okay, so tell us, now that you are on this side of things and you made it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I did the shitty paragraphs in the time, in a couple weeks, really, so I can apply for this grant. So that would kind of put me the accountability to do the shitty paragraph. And then, the shitty proposal that I gave them. And then I defended the shitty proposal. And then I didn't touch the shitty proposal. I just did what was in the shitty proposal. The only thing I touched was the methods section because I had to update my methods. But I ain't touching nothing in chapter 1 and 2. And it got me through the defense, y'all. So I don't, whatever Marvette said, she said, that's right. That's the part.
That is funny. Okay. If you couldn't hear that on the other sites, what she said, because we're going to get her in the interview soon. But back, was it fall 23? I don't know what time it is.
23, yeah.
Fall of 23. A grant came up and she had 3 to 4 weeks to write a proposal, defend it, and submit the application in order to get the funding. She did shitty paragraphs, did that. Right. And then it was about, okay, how do we do this 3-phase dissertation? Because there were 3 phases, writing it up. And then earlier this year, chair was like, okay, come on, let's defend it. Again, another situation. You got a few weeks. You got to finish to write this up. Shitty paragraphs.
February 1st, I still remember I had the 30 pages for my proposal. That's all I was able to crank through. And then I turned in 157 pages to my committee, and it wasn't perfect. I did write a good chapter 3 and 4. No, 4 and 5. The 6 and 7, I think I just gave up on that last method. And then they asked me all the questions about it, which I already knew because I'm like, yeah. So I have revisions to do in the 2 weeks before it's to the grad school, but it's done.
It's done.
Yeah.
Congratulations. It was
it
was a great defense.
Yeah, I see. That's very clever. She put a little skirt under her dress to make it longer. I see, very clever.
Fashion icon. Okay. A fashion icon.
What about that?
So hey, cool out now, okay? Don't be coming. Don't come for my girl now. Fashion icon.
I was trying to tell her I said, doctor? She said, no.
No, girl. I was there. Nothing changed. Mommy. I would say, yeah, I do appreciate that you had your daughter there and that you can hear her the whole time. And I was like, as it should be, okay? But she has something to say, number one. But number two, thinking about your topic, I just felt like it was perfect. Perfect background noise.
Oh, I didn't even hear her. She was making noise. I guess I was in my own little world answering questions. I didn't really hear that much.
She was just sort of like, like toddler babble. Like it wasn't. Again, she had things to say. She had things to say. So thank you and congratulations again. And I'm going to be asking you for your availability to tell people your full story because we need to know how you did it. The money especially. Like this probably needs to be a 2-part conversation because the funding and the dissertation process to go deep in that will help people.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Back to who we are and our identity. Who you are today, like the version of who you are today, is learning how to be the future doctor version of you. This is an ongoing process, right? It's a process that you will constantly be interrogating and asking yourself, who am I? What do I believe? What do I want to stand for? How do I want to show up? In the same way that you're not the same version of yourself who was a first-year undergrad student, you will not be the same a week from now, a month from now, a year from now. My whole point in this is saying, I want you to be more intentional about who you are becoming. We have more control over that than we believe, but we often, especially in a process like a doctoral program, we often defer to, well, faculty know best. My chair knows best. My chair will tell me who I will be. My chair will tell me what I will study. My chair will tell me if I made it to the end. You're dependent on a lot of external people and like aspects to tell you who you are. But I want you to think about, who do you want to be? How do you want to show up? When you walk out of rooms, what do you want people to say about you? Have you given much thought to that? In the same way you have an opinion about your chair, your faculty in your program, other faculty that you might meet in conferences, I want to know what's the opinion you have about yourself. I'm going to skip this slide. I don't know what I was thinking in August. So I don't know what that slide even means. Okay, so I am going to review a common scenario, and I want you to compare it to the reflection you did earlier. Remember, I asked you the questions about what happened during your last writing session. So I want you to compare. Again, jot down any notes, any arguments you want to have with me. Okay, any fighting words that you have. I take it all. Okay, I'm not going to even be offended. And I want you to, this is what that slide was. I want you to identify anything that is coming up and ask yourself, is this about how I'm seeing myself? Is this truly about my time management? Is this truly about my energy? Is it about me not understanding or understanding what I need to do, or some combination of all of the above? Okay, and I want you to see if you will respond in the same way in this scenario. Okay, put a 1 in the chat if you're following me, if you understand what we're doing here. I just want to make sure you're still awake. Okay, because I really need y'all energy today. Because remember, low iron. I'm going to collapse after this. I'm going to be in my bed until my next meeting. Okay, thank y'all. So, scholar stories. I'm going to bring these back because this is helpful. Once you are clear on what it is that you need to do, and for those of you who work with me in private coaching, you probably already know where I'm about to go. Once you are set on what you need to do, we move on to these. We move on to what are the stories you are telling about yourself. So if you hear Danielle being able to articulate how she's thinking and feeling and what that translates into what she's going to do, is because we did this over and over, week after week. If you are familiar with cognitive behavioral therapy, this is all the framework is. No, I'm not acting as your therapist. I just think it's a great tool in understanding what is happening in the moment. The first part is the situation. What are the facts? If you can get into a practice of separating, here is the facts of a situation, and here's what I'm making that mean, the facts mean. If you could just do this first part, you will be so far ahead than most people. Because what did I say earlier? Most people think that the stories they're telling themselves in their brain are facts. In this case, I want you to think about facts as if I had to get 100 people to agree, they would most likely agree. Facts are like right now for me it's 7:37 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Facts are Thursday, March 20th is the date. Right, we're not going to argue. Now, because we are academics, I'm sure there are some person who's going to be like, but a whole number is not really a number, right? And time is a social construct. I'm not going philosophical with it. I am saying, as much as possible, what are the facts, okay? So we got the situation, what are the facts? Then the story is, what do I make those facts mean? What do I make it mean about me? What do I make it mean about my future? What am I making it mean? Emotions. When I make it mean a certain thing, I feel a certain way. When I feel this way, I behave a certain way. When I behave this way over time, these are the results I get. Okay, following me? So here's the situation. On Sunday, you made a plan and you said that this week, your writing schedule was going to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon to 2 p.m. That's what you said. But then you showed up the following Saturday and you had no writing completed. So, right, I could go to your planner, your journal, your documents, whatever, and you can show me an actual picture of your plan. You could show me where you said, I was going to write Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon to 2. And I could see that if this was Saturday and you had no writing to produce, right? I'm clarifying because these are facts so that you notice the difference here. These are the facts of the situation. The next question is, what do you make these facts mean about you? So then the story is, it may sound something like, I'm so behind. Here's another week. I said I was going to show up and do the thing, and I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. I'm never going to graduate could be the story because I keep doing this. But y'all being in my audience, I know. We'll be like, I'm going to the library or the bookstore, or I'm going into my office, and I will stay there all night if I have to because I'm going to get something done. And you might be like, I did want to work this week. I did want to write and show and produce something, but I'm so tired. It's March. Okay, these kids are on spring break. I barely survived. Okay, we still got a whole nother weekend to go. Whatever the version of the story is. Excuse me. Or you might be going down a rabbit hole and being like, but what if I don't finish? Another week of not doing anything and I won't finish. And if I don't finish, then what about right? We can go down that rabbit hole. Once you know what you're making these facts mean, then you want to ask yourself, okay, based on this story, how is this story making me feel? Let me pause. How does this make me feel when I'm thinking these things? You might feel guilty. Because you're like, I keep running out of time. I keep doing this. I keep not doing what I said I was going to do. You might have shame. Like, I'm not good enough to finish a dissertation. Or I'm not good enough to be a doctor. I don't have what it takes. You might feel frustrated. Like, why can't I just do what I know I need to do? Why can't I just get myself together? You might have fear about not getting to the end. This could be uncertainty. This could be insecurity. You may have anxiety. You may have all of the above. So let me pause and say, one, let me know. You can tell me yes or no. So far, is this resonating with you? Because if it's not, I can find another scenario, because I just want to make sure that this is resonating. If it's resonating a little bit too hard, okay, it's okay if you need to take a break. It's okay if you need to go take a sip of water or two. I understand. Danielle.
I mean, I go through cycles of this all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's go back to me, like, even this morning, right? Because normally I'm up around 7:30, 8 o'clock, and then I'm running by 9:30, 10. If it's my day off in ideal Danielle land, right? And I ended up sleeping till noon today. And as I was on my phone, I was like, okay, girl, you said you had planned to be up hours ago, but clearly your body needed some rest. But are we just not going to do anything today, or are we going to start putting some things in motion? You know, like, did I feel guilty? Did I feel shame? Was I frustrated? Was I fearful? Was I anxious? Yes to all of the above. But I had to have a little conversation with myself and say, girlfriend, yes, all those things are true right now. That is how you feel. But if you don't get up and start doing anything, you're going to keep in that place.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're actually fearful of is you're not going to move from this place that you're at right now. So are we going to feel better when we start doing things? And then the answer was yes. So I started moving things. And when things started moving, I started to have a little belief that we were going to get more done today. And I did. I've done 2 loads of laundry. I did my running. I'm here with you all working on the things that I need to do, and we're making progress. But I had to have that conversation with myself to get going. But that's what it is, right? Because before it would have just taken me out and I would have been on my phone watching TV the rest of the day. But it's also acknowledging you also just got back from a campus visit, and that takes a lot out of you and your body needed the rest. So what was I making those facts mean? Originally it was I was going to do anything today, but then it became, okay, you got some rest and let's just try and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was doing something, I got convinced that I was able to keep going and do more. And now we're here.
And I love how you talked about, like, if you didn't have that conversation, you probably would have been on the couch watching TV, which would have been fine considering, right, you were traveling. Excuse me. But the version of you who is like, no, I'm graduating in May, right? Because you have already decided and you're sticking with that. You're like, I mean, let me just talk to myself and see if there's some things I could do. I don't need to do everything, but I could do. And so I just wanted to share that with everyone to say, like, that's why it's important for you to decide who you are. And that's why we're going through this. So,
and I'll just add one more thing, because I'm sorry, my Gemini self. But to the point about I've decided that I'm going to graduate, right? Like, I was in my bag about 3 weeks ago about that, because I was like, oh my gosh, my committee's going to be a pain in the ass again and they're not going to pass me. And then what if I can't get these jobs and all of this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I just decided, so what's the worst thing that's going to happen if that happens? Like, the worst thing that's going to happen, you've already experienced that. Like, full disclosure for those folks that don't know my full story, I didn't pass my proposal the first time around, and I had to redo it and resubmit it in September. So I thought that was going to take me out. And after Dr. Lacy put me on a timeout and I got back to work, then I was able to pass it in September, and now we're here. So I already dealt with what would happen if I don't pass that time, right? So telling myself, okay, you've survived it already. You just need to be done with this thing by August 1st. So if my committee says on April 9th, you're not ready, then we're just going to have to keep working on it, and we're going to get it done by August 1st. Because whether I hear pomp and circumstance in May or I hear pomp and circumstance in May 2026, it don't matter, because I'm getting my parole papers and getting out of here.
Okay. All right, parole papers. But period.
It don't matter if it's May 16th, 2025 or not. We're just getting out of UMass this year.
And
that's what I decided.
And going into an R1 like faculty position. That's it.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen.
That's it. And I was also like a little disappointed that I heard no from one of the schools that I had a campus visit for. But as I keep getting wined and dined at these R1 institutions for lecturer positions, and they keep telling me, we can't give you a course release, but if you want to do research, we'll give you money, honey. I was like, so you're telling me I can have my cake and eat it too? Like, I can get this R1 money and not have to perish by constantly publishing? What? Is this what's happening? Yeah, this is what's happening, girl. So that's what's happening.
What's happening? Thank you. And if anyone wants to follow up with Danielle, please do. Okay. So I'm glad this is resonating. I hope you are still comparing it to your own responses. And I promise you, I'm not trying to activate you in any way beyond helping you to see that you have more control than you believe. Okay. So to recap, right, the situation is you say you're going to write for 3 days this week. You got to Saturday morning, you did no writing. You're making that mean that you're behind. You don't never do what you say you're going to do. And you don't know if you're going to finish, which leads to emotions of guilt, shame, frustration, anxiety, fear, uncertainty, anger, if you like me. And I want to know, what do you do when you feel these ways? What if you go back to times where you felt guilty or shameful or frustrated or scared or anxious, what do you do? I want to know what you do. Like if there was a camera, if you were on Punk'd, I'm a show like my millennial age, excuse me, what will we see you doing? I know when I feel this way, I'm either scrolling, I'm eating something without even being conscious of it. Those are my like go-to. Like if I'm not paying attention to myself and I'm not trying to be intentional. So that's what I want you to write down for yourself. What do you do when you feel overwhelmed by these types of emotions? You don't have to tell me, but if you're able to, if you have the capacity, feel free to put it in the chat. But I at least want you to write it down for yourself, because this level of awareness, it comes with some things. Like you're gonna be a little bit shocked. You don't want to judge yourself. We're not judging. We just need to know what's happening. Okay. In this scenario, feeling this way leads this person to drive to the library, like they said, right? As they said, if I got to stay all night, I'm going to do it. They find an empty study room. They sit there with a laptop and books from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. because they said, no matter what, I'm going to catch up. Read about 3 articles and a chapter from a book. You write about like a half paragraph of your literature review. You tell your friend, listen, girl, I know we were doing this whole scandal rewatch party situation, but I'm gonna have to cancel, girl, because I need to work on my dissertation. And I know this is the third time that I done canceled on you, but I gotta cancel. And you go home and you eat string cheese and Oreos while you watch something random on TV. Maybe it's a different world. Side note, if you are watching a different world, look in the background because the AI didn't do a good job on editing. But that's a fun thing for you to do later. And you switch back and forth from Instagram to TikTok until you fall asleep until 1 a.m. This is what you end up doing on this Saturday because you're feeling the way that you're feeling. This sounds about realistic. As a result, your story that you've had about being behind or worrying about not finishing, like you give up your only rest day of the week. Saturday, in my scenario, is the only day that you had completely free. But because you didn't show up and do what you were quote unquote supposed to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you put yourself on punishment and said, no, I'm going to be at the library from 11 to 9. And I mean, you did read 3 articles, a book chapter, and have a half a paragraph, but you also sacrifice a whole Saturday. You sacrifice time with your friend, your bestie, to sit in the library for 10 hours to produce 3 articles, reading 1 book chapter and a half a paragraph. You still don't have a process or a routine to follow. So what's going to happen for your next writing session? And you're worried about that half a paragraph you did manage to write. You don't even think it's good enough. You're ready to put it in the trash because you don't think the words sound academic enough or that your chair is going to accept it. And you finish Saturday more tired and more drained than you did before you started. And you're about to start a whole new week because the next day is Sunday. And you know what happens on Sunday? The Sunday scaries. Let me pause. Can I get a one-word reaction to this scenario so far? How are we feeling? What's the one-word reaction to this scenario? I just want to show you how this happens. I am slowing things down to pick out one day to show you how you think it sounds logical, right? It sounds logical to say, well, I said I was going to write Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and since I didn't, and I'm free on Saturday, then I should just go write on Saturday. That sounds logical. It sounds logical to say, well, I was supposed to write 6 hours this week, and because I got Saturday free, I'm gonna take it up a notch and do 9 or 10 hours in the library. Right? It sounds logical, but what I want you to notice, this is what you have to show for it. I want you to look at your own reflection. What do you have to show for it? Is 10 hours worth just reading 3 articles, a book chapter, and half a paragraph? Maybe it is for you. I don't know. But when I say things like, you can write a whole chapter in 10 hours, I understand why most of you think I'm just gassing. Like, you think I'm just talking about marketing. You think what I'm saying is not realistic. Because when you sit down at the library for 10 hours, this is what you're producing. But I'm telling you, that's not because you are a slow reader or a slow writer. It's because you simply don't have a routine. You don't have a checklist to follow. Because I'm sure if I told you to go clean your room or go do something for work, you would be more productive. Why? Because you know what to do, you know what to expect, and you most likely have a process, right? If I said, go clean out your inbox, you most likely have a process for that, or you know how to do it. I'm just asking you to apply the same logic to your dissertation. Okay. I have like, real monsters in my head, Jessica. Like looking in the mirror of my life, guilty. Yeah, constantly putting myself on punishment over here. Usually when I feel this way, I want to disconnect, watch TV, scroll, or I want to distract myself with something else that feels easier. Yeah, this is when the laundry gets done. Okay, this is when you start doing errands and projects that you've been meaning to get to, and you just never had the time. You start finding ways to do that when you get overwhelmed with this process. Right, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. But as often as this used to happen, I should have a Letterman's jacket in this. Thank God you have collected me before and taught me how to move through this. Listen, I still get there. I go to my coach every week. Like, girl, I don't know. I'm just here, just showing up. Let's see. Anybody have anything on the YouTubes? Nothing. Lay down. Watch YouTube videos of ladies who thrift and style their outfits. Yes. I love to get lost in the thrifting people on the TikTok. I'm like, I don't even know where you found that, but that's cute, girl. That's cute. Okay. Punishing yourself does not work. Right? When we punish ourselves, we think it's logical, but it doesn't work. It just makes you more exhausted. It just makes you feel even more like shit. Shaming yourself, punishing yourself does not work. Telling yourself, get it together, it does not work. Because you're missing a key part. And I think it was our last call, and I'm going to say it again here. I usually, like, my standard guidance for you all is 10 hours a week, no more than 4 hours in a day. Why? Because if you don't have if you're not following the process, if you don't know exactly what you're going to produce, the results you're going to produce in that session, then all you're going to do is sit there and waste time and energy that could be used doing things you actually enjoy. Just because you sit in front of a computer, just because you sit in front of your articles, doesn't mean you're being productive. And in my brain, why sit there and just stare at the things when you can go do something else? Like, you can go scroll Instagram without having guilt because you have decided I'm not doing any dissertation work because I don't have the capacity to do it. But if you are going to be someone who works for long periods of time or pull an all-nighter, what I want you to do is focus on, how do I do my best work? How can I make, if I'm going to pull an all-nighter, if I'm going to sit here and work for 10 hours straight, how can I make sure that I know exactly what results or tasks I'm going to produce? How can I make sure that those tasks are clear, defined, and tangible? How do I make sure I tell myself how long I'm going to give myself for each of these tasks? How do I, as much as possible, follow a routine, a structure, a process? And how do I allow myself to give the bare minimum effort? I know y'all don't like that phrase, but if you're going to do things, you're going to do big shit like sit in front of your computer for 10 hours, you're going to pull an all-nighter, you're going to go to somebody's writing retreat over the weekend, I want you to have a plan. Because how many writing retreats or writing sessions that you shown up to thinking like, oh, I have all this empty time, like you didn't took off of work? How much have you done that only to get to the end of that time and be like, now what did I do? There's prep work that goes into that. Until you can do that, until you have the capacity to do that level of prep work, 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, if that. We can talk more about that if need be. Okay, so I'm going to give you an alternative of how to see this situation. Now that I gave you what most likely is happening for many of you, I'm going to give you some guidance on how you can redirect the situation. We're not going to change the facts. We're going to keep the facts the same. We're going to change everything else because we don't need to change the facts. Okay. I can tell when I don't follow the process, and when I do, the outcomes are day and night. Yeah. Day and night. Me too, Ashley. I'll be over here like, dude, look, I'm just going to have fun. Now I just give myself days to just have fun and go down a rabbit holes. All right. Situation again. Let me remind you. The situation was you made a plan. You said you were going to write Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon to 2 p.m. It's Saturday and you have nothing done. You did not show up to your writing sessions and you did not produce anything this week. Those are the facts still. The story, I invite you to add some tweaks to your story. You may still feel like I'm so behind. I just want you to add something to it. And that's valid. And that makes sense. And that's real for me to feel that way. It makes sense why I feel behind. Okay. Another week of not doing what I'm supposed to do. Instead of that, another week of not finding a plan that works for this season of life. Let me back it up. another week of not finding a plan that works for this season of life. That is different emotionally than saying to yourself, another week of not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Because the first one, right, another week of not doing what I'm supposed to be doing makes it feel like you just can't get yourself together. You lazy. You're broken. Something's wrong with you. But when we change that to another week of not finding a plan that works for this season of life, we give ourselves grace and compassion. We say, hey, maybe this season is different than, like, March is different than September. September is different than my life in June. We can't keep using the same strategies or like schedule or processes for every season of life. That doesn't make sense. You are a human. Things are going to change. The way you work needs to be adaptable to those changes. Okay, I'm going to go to the library and I'm staying there all night if I have to. Instead of that, how about I am going to go to the library and I will leave 1 hour before the Scandal watch party. Why? Because you done told your friend that y'all was going to watch Scandal and you've already rescheduled twice. You're not rescheduling the third time. So you're telling yourself before you go into this library, you're going to leave an hour before you're supposed to meet your friend so you can make sure you have enough time. You may still be telling yourself, I did want to write, but I'm so tired, because that may be your truth right now. It may be your truth. Like, I did want to. That's true. I wanted to show up for this dissertation. I wanted to show up and make progress. I'm tired. That is you acknowledging the very real reality of you got a lot going on in this season of life. And it's valid. This is our busy season at work. It makes sense why I'm tired. You see how we're further layering in grace and compassion. Busy season of work. Isn't that a fact? At least I know for me in higher ed, I knew that about this time of the year to the end of the semester, don't ask me to do nothing. Okay, because we got spring break in March. March is Women's History Month. April is Sexual Violence Awareness Month. Then we're going into May. We got graduation and end of semester. I don't have it. I got programs. I can't do nothing else. Right. In the same way that I used to tell my family in August, I don't exist. I got training. I got orientation. I can't do anything. The answer is no. Those are facts. It happens every year. It's a busy season. You have busy seasons in your job, in your life. They're coming, and I'm asking you to make plans for it. And I'm asking you to give yourself grace that when you are tired because you are in your busy season, that you acknowledge that you tell yourself, oh, it makes sense why it's hard for me to show up because I'm tired. Okay, what if I don't finish? If you ever ask yourself a question, if your brain gives you a question, your job is to answer it. Because if you do not answer the question that your brain is giving you, it will answer it itself and it will not be a pretty answer. It will be a very negative, worst case scenario type answer. But when you answer on purpose, you give yourself more grace, right? So what if I don't finish? Then I'll keep doing what I'm doing, brain. You talk back to your anxiety. Then here are my next steps. I'm going to take it slow this morning because it's been a long week. I'm tired. I'm going to be at this library by 1 p.m. I'm going to use my first hour to make my plan and figure out my top 15, right? Because when we do the scholar planning routine, I ask you to identify what are the 15 tasks you're going to do for the week. So this is what I'm asking you to do. Okay, let me know in the chat. Give me a one-word response, or you can give me an emoji to this process. Or could you see yourself doing this level of work or talking back to your brain and to yourself? Can you see yourself having this conversation on a Saturday morning after a week of not doing what you quote unquote said you would be doing? This is what Danielle described in her example. It's being willing to talk back, to not just take, right? Because you could just be like, well, I'm so behind, and that's true. To who? According to who? To your arbitrary deadline you gave yourself? Another week of not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Really? Because you still got a job. You still got a place to live. You're still in the program. Nobody kicked you out. So What are we talking about? I'm going to the library and staying there all night. Why? 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 We simply just don't question our brains enough. Because if your anxiety is like mine, she just be throwing up the most random things. I'd be like, girl, what's happening? Why would you say that? Why would you be so dark? That's wild. If I went around just believing my anxiety, y'all, I would not be here, first of all. Because again, she'd be saying some wild stuff. It'd be real outlandish. The intrusive thoughts, you got to talk back to them. Okay. Because when I start telling myself stories like this, then I get different emotions. I want you to notice I did not cross out these emotions. Why? Because this is real. This is real to experience guilt and shame and frustration, fear and anxiety. They're normal emotions. I'm asking you to invite other ones, the ones in red. This is my favorite, willing. Often I'm willing. Because willing is like, I don't like it. I don't want to. I will do it. I don't want to. So I want to stay at the library longer, but I'd rather have more energy next week. Willing. I'm willing to end before I think I should so that I can protect my future self. Faith. I'm willing to do my best to see if I have what it takes. Like, no, I don't know if I'm going to be able to meet this deadline for graduation, but I'm going to show up. What did are you on about Dr. Lee Johnson? I'm going to just say Dr. Lee Johnson. Right? She said, like, listen, I went from 30 pages to 157. She had to have some level of faith to do that in a few weeks. Right? There were many conversations I feel like we had. It was like, am I going to make it? She would show up to her coaching sessions and be like, I should be doing something for this dissertation. Like, I'm not defending. But there was a part of her. And if you real churchy, you just need faith the size of a what? Okay, go back to your good book. Hope. Hope is a great emotion. It won't always feel this hard. I just gotta keep going. It won't always feel this hard. I have to say that to myself all the time. Oh, girl, it won't always be this way. One of the ways I love to say this to myself, the hope part, is I'll be like, man, in 10 years from now, when I tell this story, I am going to giggle and kick my feet. But right now, it's just hard. Right now, it's hard. In 10 years, though, this is going to be a funny story to tell. Confident. That's the same thing I used to think about my master's program. I used to think coursework was hard, and look at me. I used to think undergrad was so challenging, and look at me, because confidence means that you have past experience or evidence to demonstrate that you can do the thing that you're doing now. So just go back to your other degrees, certifications, classes, other challenges. Y'all done 50, 11 goals. Go back to a past experience and you tell yourself, remember when you thought that was hard? Right? Often, if I got to really dig deep, I'd be like, girl, remember when you could not figure out how to tie your shoes? Like, y'all, for real. I remember this vividly. It's one of my first memories. I was about to fight my daddy, okay? I'm like, listen, this tying of the shoes things, it ain't working. My fingers don't do what your fingers do. And I got past that. If I can get past that, I can get past the dissertation. Now, some of you might think it's wild to compare learning how to tie your shoes to a dissertation, but you were not there. You were not there and how hard it was, okay? Okay, certainty. I can figure out my next steps and then decide how much time I have left. I don't have to have it all figured out on this Saturday. I can figure out what to do this Saturday, and then at the end of this library session, I can decide how much time or how many more tasks I have left. This is why we talk so much about emotions. So I want to invite you to have a spectrum of emotions. Because when we're doing this, then we start changing our behavior. So you still got to go to the library, find an empty study room. You got to sit there with all of your stuff, but instead of sitting there from 11 to 9, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m., we got 4 hours. Now sitting there for 10 hours. Why? You don't work for the library. Nobody's paying you. 1 to 5 p.m. you're going to find 3 articles, and you're not going to read them word for word like you did in this other scenario. Instead, you're going to read the abstract, the introduction, the discussion, and you're going to write a shitty paragraph for each of the articles. You see how that is a different task than read 3 articles? You're going to save that book chapter for tomorrow's planning session, because why? You don't need to do that. You're going to read these 3 articles and write 3 paragraphs. You're going to tell your friend to text you at 4:30 p.m. to remind you about Scandal. And you're going to ask her the type of wine she wants, because it's the Scandal watch party. Now, why would we do this step? Because most of you might be with me until we got here. Why would I text my friend that? Because you know yourself. Because you know that if you sit in that library and you start having momentum and you actually start reading these articles and writing your 3 shitty paragraphs, there's going to be a voice that says, you don't know the next time you're going to be motivated, so you should stay here and work all night. You're already in the zone, and you know how hard it is for you to get in the zone. Tell her you can't go watch Scandal. Cancel. There's some version of that happens because you don't trust that you'll be motivated like this again. And so because you know this about yourself, you like saw for it. So you tell your friend, hey girl, text me at 4:30, because I know if you text me at 4:30, I am less likely to cancel on you. This is not an either or. It's not an either you be disciplined in your dissertation and you sacrifice your friendships, or you go all in on your friendships and sacrifice your dissertation. That's not what this is. This is a both in. I can be a person who shows up and get work done for my dissertation and spend time with my friend and watch Scandal. So that's why you're going to ask her to text, because we're going to ask for help and we're going to ask for accountability. You're going to go to the package store and get your favorite Moscato. I don't know what the people drink, okay? And go and watch probably about 10 minutes of an episode, and then y'all gonna end up talking, right? Or maybe you switch to Real Housewives since it's back. I did watch the first episode. It felt like it was so nostalgic. Okay, let me focus. You still gonna go home and probably eat the string cheese and Oreos while you watch TV, and you still probably gonna switch back and forth between Instagram and TikTok while watching A Different World until 1 a.m. I'm not saying you're going to have better habits all the way around. I'm just inviting you to have a different conversation with yourself. Because when you do this, it could look like this. Hold on, let me cough. Excuse me. I'm asking you to create a schedule that looks like this. So we get to the library at 1. At 1:10, you brain dump. You take a little break, go walk around. At 1:30, you read your article. And you write your, you read the article, take a break, write your shitty paragraph, take a break, because these are Pomodoro sessions. Read article 2, again, break, write shitty paragraph, eat snack, walk outside, call your friend. 4, the final article, break, read the text from the friend, because remember, she said you asked her to text you at 4:30, write your last shitty paragraph, pack up and leave for the package store. Here's what I know about this, though, because this looks real pretty. But I know if you sit down at the beginning of your writing session and plan this out in this way, that you're actually going to read these 3 articles and write these paragraphs in half the time you think it's going to take you. But even if it does take you the full 4 hours, you know what you can leave the library feeling? Accomplished. I'm probably getting ahead of myself. Because the outcome of doing this work, of talking back to yourself, making a plan, setting yourself up for success, is that you allow doubt, uncertainty, insecurity, whatever the feelings are, you allow it to be there and you respond directly to it. We're not avoiding, we're responding. You increase your capacity, which is your energy, your clarity, and your time that you're able to do things. You increase this by making a clear, tangible plan so you know exactly what to do and how to get to work when you get into the library. You allow yourself to do the bare minimum because you're only focusing on reading the important sections of the article, and writing a paragraph helps you to synthesize the information as well as capture your notes. You prove to yourself that you don't have to choose between your friends, your relationships, your life, your rest, your well-being in your dissertation. You don't have to choose between them. It's a both and. You still make your plan, because we don't have this call anymore. You still make your plan on Sunday. and you have more energy and motivation for the upcoming week because you've already started off on a productive footing. Okay. I want to know, do you think this is realistic or not? I want to know give me your reaction in the chat, or you could unmute. Give me your reaction to me showing you the first scenario, or like the first version of scenario 1 and the second version of it. Is this realistic? Is this something that you could actually do? Ashley, you're saying that's what happened for that time I told you I was going to follow your scholar routine instead of my method. I finished even before I got to the end of my intended time schedule. Still had time to do other stuff later that night. You said you finished in like 90 minutes, didn't you? Yeah.
I did. I mean, I had more on my list to complete than I had that I actually planned for a schedule, because I came on the tail end of when you were talking about the scenario, and so I was that person who would have like all these things to read, and then I left like feeling like I didn't produce anything. But that one time I ended up saying, you wanna know what? And I aligned it to like cooking from a recipe. I said, forget it. Let me stop adding my own seasoning to it and just go on and do the thing. And so I did the thing, and then that's why I felt like your weekly planning is so important, because that was one of those times I had so much going that week that I didn't really get to do the weekly planning, but I did go in with the plan before I sat down. And I said, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do in this particular session. And I felt like I was being ambitious, because I think I had like 7 things on the list. But I went through it in an hour and a half. And then by the time I got done, I said, oh my gosh, I got more time. Like, what? Huh? And I finished all 7. And I was like, and I actually got words on the page or on the screen, whatever you want to say. And I said, oh my gosh. I said, that's why I needed to follow the plan. That's what I needed to do.
Follow the plan. And I get it. I get that, like, on first glance, the steps feel like a lot or tedious, or maybe I shouldn't put words. Let me just ask you directly, Ashley. Why didn't you follow it before?
Because of what you said about like the different seasons. It's like you kind of go back and think, oh, well, this worked beforehand. Why is it not working now? And I was just trying to put my old habits of what I used to do in previous programs when I was getting my master's, a specialist, all of that. And I thought, okay, this should work. It should work, but it's not. It's not working. My whole situation, my circumstance, my life right now is not in the same place. It's not in the same season. So I have to move differently, you know? You know, in previous seasons, my sister was here, and now she's not here. You know, in other seasons, my dad was fully cognitively there, and he's not here cognitively anymore. You know, my mother needs more help. You know, it's those things change and shift. And so that's the part that they say is so hard about finishing your doctorate, is that life doesn't stop around you while you're trying to do the thing. And so while you're trying to do the thing, you have to still, you know, manage the other parts of your life and world that's still changing. And so since that is changing, you have to move in a different way to get things done. And it's like, you don't want to give up on this. Not at all. I don't want to give up on myself. I don't want to give up on this, you know. And so, you know, it's not just about what I'm going to get at the end. It's just about even just finishing this. I just want to finish this path that I set myself on, and my family. Because, you know, it's like everybody is with you as you walk in this road. Everybody's pulling for you. I mean, you got your haters and stuff, but for the most part, people who really matter, they are pulling for you and want to see you succeed. So yeah. And I feel you too about even the not not touching in on your friends and stuff. I try to make it a point to, if I'm going to do lunch, then I try to say, okay, well, you want to know what? You just going to have to get up early, maybe do your 2 hours of right there before you go to lunch so that you can be in that moment. Because, these moments, it's not promised,
Yeah.
So.
And grief is its own thing too, y'all, because especially when you are working on your dissertation, I want you to think about this. Whether it's your dissertation or any other heavy type of task where you have to sit and be pretty much by yourself and think, just because you have decided, oh, today is going to be the day I focus on my literature review, your brain is like, oh, thank you for finally sitting down. Here are all the things I wanted to tell you, but you were too busy to hear. It's going to bring it up. And especially when you're grieving, it's like, well, you've been ignoring me. I want to grieve. I'm going to remind you of the most, and it's going to be like, it's the most random things that sets off grief. It could be a smell, right? It could be a phrase somebody says. It could just be like a memory pops up and then your whole day is a wash. Why? Because grief is taken over. Do you have room for that in your doctoral process, in this dissertation process? Because it's not a matter of if you'll have grief. It's like when grief shows up, what will you do in this process that we're talking about? The Scholar Stories gives you a framework that you can say, okay, how am I feeling right now? Like, what am I making these things mean? Is this a situation where I need to push through, or is this a situation where I need to go sit down? In the beginning of doing this, it will be exhausting. It will be like trial and error. But if you keep going with this level of awareness, you will be able to get on to yourself before it becomes something that disrupts you. So, like, for example, last week, maybe, I have CPTSD. A memory popped up and I said, oh no, I already know where this is going. Today's about to be a wash. And so I just have like a set of things that I do. I have like a protocol, if you will. Today is a grief day. So we need to reach out to people who can do some things on behalf of the business. I'm going to make sure I have food ready to go. I'm going to lay down and I'm going to make sure every device is charged, or my charger's within like 3 feet of me, because I know that I'm not going to get out the bed. I don't make it mean that it's something wrong with me. I don't make it a problem. I just like, what do I need for myself? How do I take care of myself? How do I get the most important things delegated? Or how do I plan? If I can't delegate it, how do I plan it for the rest of the week? And then what do I need in this moment to take care of myself? And I allow myself to fall apart, because trying to push through, trying to avoid, it's not going to work. Now, are there days and situations where you can't fall apart or do that? You got to push through. Yes, but it doesn't mean you have to push through without thinking about, okay, how can I let this be easier for me? What can I do for myself in this moment? So if you can't leave work, it's like, okay, Ashley may not be able to leave the kids by themselves, right? She might not be able to allow you to put movies on still and be like, watch this. I need a day off. Right? She could do that.
Yes, I'm good for doing an amnesty day, and the kids be like, all right, we'll leave you alone. Okay, thank you. I'm glad
right.
You understand it.
You thought you gonna start a new unit. You're like, today we gonna watch this movie because I ain't got it. Or it's like, I was gonna do this extra thing, but I'm not gonna do that extra thing because I'm gonna take care of myself. That's all I'm inviting y'all to do, is to think about, what do you need? Pushing through no longer works. It might have gotten you to a doctoral program, but it's not going to get you to the end of that program. One of my favorite all-time quotes is, what got you here won't get you there. It won't. I have to learn that lesson over and over. I'm in the middle of one of those lessons right now. Like, I love to work, y'all. This is why I can talk so much about it. When I tell you I love to work, and this season of life has been like, go sit down. I know you think you love to work. You got to go sit down. I've been real frustrated. Like, I started this call being like, my iron is in the toilet. I don't even know. It won't even come up no matter what I'm doing. And I do not have the energy to do all the things I want to do. I am incredibly frustrated, but I also know enough to know I have to take care of myself. I could be frustrated and lay down. I could be frustrated and go get some pomegranate juice. I could be frustrated and figure out how to make these beans. But just because I'm frustrated doesn't mean that I got to push myself to do extra things. Because what I want you to think about is you might get an extra paragraph in, but is that paragraph worth your health? Because it's not just for now. You're going to be recovering from this process for at least 2 years. What do you want that recovery to look like? Do you want it to be hard and doctor's appointment after doctor's appointment? Because that was my story. This is why I go so hard on taking care of yourself. For 2 years straight, I was every month in somebody's doctor's office because I pushed myself. There's a cost to pushing yourself. And I'm going to tell you, it's not worth it. It's not. I know you think it is. I know you think the relief you feel. It's not, though. Further on my soapbox, thank y'all for your comments. Oh, I was going to say on YouTube, Michelle said, I know I could do this revamp scenario if I stay focused with the plan, then I do so much better. And I believe that we all can agree to that. Like, having a plan helps. Most of us have not been taught how to create a plan at this level of work that makes it easy to do the work. You may have a plan, you may have a to-do list that you're using, but does it help you to get to work? I'm inviting you to take this up to the next level. Okay, so we've been talking about identity. I've been asking you to decide who you want to be, because in the same way in this dissertation process, whatever happens after this doctoral program, you're going to miss deadlines. Life is going to happen. Things are going to come up. You're going to have busy season. It's all normal. I'm asking you to respect your process and learn how to do that. It will take time. It will take energy. But if you can learn to respect the way you do things, it will make your life so much more easy or easier. Okay, let me tell you what I mean by respecting your process. If you are someone who, let's say your chair came to you and said, I need to see a draft of your methods chapter by March 31st. It's March 20th. And they came to you and said, in the next 11 days, I need you to give me a draft. And your process is one where you think, and then on March 31st at 11:50, you start writing and you turn it in on April 1st at 8 a.m. If that's your process, then that's your process. What if that gets to be okay? I know what I said. I know that technically it's late, but did you turn in the draft? Did your chair get the draft in their inbox? And if that's your process, would you be willing to accept whatever feedback your chair had to say about you being late? If that's how you naturally work? I'm asking you to consider, like, what if it's okay that you work that way? What if it's okay that you procrastinate? What if it's okay that you need the pressure? What if it's okay that you're someone who you like to read and read and read, even though no matter what I say on the internet, you like to read, and then you spend the last 2 days writing? What if that gets to be okay? What if you're someone who has to write draft after draft? That's okay. I think Sawandi last week said she makes a PowerPoint slides and then she writes her chapter. It's her process. What if it gets to be okay? Because the more that you allow your process to be okay, the more that you'll be willing to talk back to yourself and be like, this is what I'm doing. I get that my chair wants me to do it this way, but I know this way works for me. I'm going to do it this way instead. There are plenty of good reasons why you don't execute and why you won't in the future. And not everybody's going to get it. That's okay. Let them have their opinion. People get to think and feel whatever they want to. You don't have to defend yourself. You don't have to argue with nobody. You don't have to persuade your chair that you can really do it. You don't have to prove that you deserve to be doctor. The only thing that this process is requiring you to do is to show up, put the words on the page, submit them to your chair, get the feedback, apply the feedback, and keep doing that process until you get to the end. You don't have to spend your sessions with them. You don't have to think about how to perfectly craft an email. You don't have to think about, okay, what do I need to say to prove to them that I can do it? Because they're going to have their opinion anyway. Let them think what they're going to think, y'all. You just show up and do your way, your process. It is your responsibility to do what you say you will and to communicate when you can't show up. and provide alternative solutions, but you do not have to shit on yourself in order to take accountability. You could be like, yeah, my bad. I know you said give it to you by March 31st, but listen, I gave it to you on April 1st. That's what I got. I'm sorry. It's not personal. It's not that I'm being disrespectful. It's just I'm just trying to follow my process. I'm a person going through life right now. I'm doing my best. I know this might be hard to hear, so I just want to check in again. How are we feeling about what I'm saying here? That you get to respect your process. You get to talk back to yourself. You can give me an emoji. You can give me a word. But I just want to check in because I know usually when I get here, people be like, yeah, it's going to be a no for me. My chair told me March 31st. It's going to be March 31st. You like that, Heather? Yeah.
I missed my deadline to turn in my my draft to my committee. And so I was like, what can we do? I'm not sending it without an approval, so they have to wait. And they waited. And when they got it, I guess they're reading it. But I'm gonna defend next Friday.
Period.
Or not.
You know, you're defending.
I'm defending on Friday. So it is what it is. What we gonna do? I didn't die.
You didn't die. They was not gonna read it until Thursday, no way. So everybody's okay. Everybody good.
Really, they don't read it until like
they probably don't even read it until the day they're pulling up in. And I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. A lot of your committee won't even read it. They just gonna show up and wait for your presentation and ask you questions based on that. Listen, these are people. Just like you are a person, they are people. Just like it's March for you, it's March for them. They tired, they over it. The job don't pay them enough. They've been dealing with student after student. You lucky if they peruse it on a Friday morning and show up. It's not about you. It's not personal. They're just tired. They're tired. Yeah.
You have no idea. Because I was like, did y'all get it? And nobody said, only one person, my dude, he's my friend. So I got it. And I'm sure he's going to peruse it. He's not going to read it. Oh my gosh. But no one else has said anything.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And listen, I'm not trying to say like people don't care, they don't read it. There are some super academics, and this is why you got to know who your committee is. Okay, so there are some super academics who will read it and take all the notes and have like on page 14, paragraph 3, on the 4th sentence, your period. It's only one space instead of 2, and those are sometimes those people. But you know that's probably why you chose them to be on your committee. But most other people, 80% of the rest of the faculty, they might read it. They might read it the day before, the day of, and they might come in ready to ask questions. Why? Because for most defenses, the questions are really standard. Like the things that you're going to ask questions about are pretty standard because students usually have the common challenges. So some things to expect, not that this is turning into a defense, but I'm good with it. Some things to expect is questions around, so what does this research mean? Why did you highlight these particular findings? What should people do in practice? What are your recommendations? Where do you plan to publish? Were there other findings that you didn't include that you think would be interesting for us to discuss? And if there are some glaring like major issues with your document itself, usually they'll save that for the feedback portion when after they give you their response, their decision. But if they are discussing it during the question and answering session, it's usually because they're confused. They're like, you said this word. Did you mean it like this or did you mean it this way? Or you talked about this theory. Why didn't you include it over here? It's going to think about your defense as you're going to 3 to 5 of your homegirls and you like, okay, I got to turn this in to get published. Give me feedback. And y'all are just having a conversation about, well, you could do this or you could do this or why not this, that. It's meant to be like a think tank, like a helping you to write the best manuscript, not this, can you prove to us that you know everything in the literature? No, that's not realistic. It's meant to be that you're talking to a group of people that you've selected to help you present the best manuscript. And if you are walking into a final defense, nobody wants you to go in there and fail because then everybody's going to have to explain. A proposal defense is different. A proposal defense, they may let you walk in and be like, you didn't listen to me, so this is the only way. But in general, no one wants you to walk into a defense and not pass, because they don't want to waste their time, but they also don't want that for you. Like, you chose these people because they're on your team. Like, they want to be on your team. They want you to be a doctor. And most faculty hate, like, it tears them apart when they have to tell the student that they didn't pass.
That would kill me.
Yeah.
Oh, my mute is off. When you said, where would you publish? Where do you plan to publish? What does that mean?
So do you plan on publishing any manuscripts from your dissertation? Are there any journals that you... Because let me back up to say, most of your faculty are thinking that you're going to continue on in academia. And so it makes no sense to do such a beautiful project of your dissertation and have all this amazing data and not do anything with it. So they like to know, are there any journal publications? Do you plan on, like, do you want to publish manuscripts too? Like, maybe you want to take one of your findings and say, like, I'm going to focus on this. Are you going to turn this into a book, or is there a different book you want to write? Do you plan on presenting at conferences? Like, how are you going to continue to further the work? But here's the thing, Heather, if they get to those questions, you passed, okay? Just know. They start talking about the future, you can relax, you passed. Somebody's going to say something?
Because you know, with my GRA, and me doing things like that, because Dr. Lacy, I get to go this Sunday. Yes.
Yeah.
But that's, Heather, that's one of the things that they start talking about, and Dr. Lacy's right. Like, if they already talk about the future, then like that's a check. but yeah, a lot of times they want to see your work published somewhere. Even maybe through a presentation. And there is a window after you graduated of like time to still be kind of like that doc student that just finished and you're now Dr. Heather. I don't know how I pronounce your last name, but we're gonna say Dr. Heather, okay? and you know, and they're like, okay, where are you gonna go? And so like there's money out there and everything, and different places where, you know, they want to see us, if you know what I mean. So you know, try to find those options too. Those opportunities that could take you in directions that you might not even think of. So
Good night. And I think there's a couple of videos, Heather, in the vault about preparing for the defense. My main advice is only answer the question that was asked. Don't try to help nobody frame a question. Don't try to help them don't try to put words in their mouth. Wait until they figure it out. And then if they don't have a question, be like, okay, she just left, but she did a beautiful job at this. One of her committee members, Natasha, they were just talking, and she was like, so what was the question? I missed it. Ask your question. And that might feel like but y'all are colleagues. You're talking to a colleague. You're not talking to somebody who's their colleague. You're a doctor. You don't make it into that room if you're not ready. So that's a colleague. Say, hey, what was your question? I'm not about to just be talking. Because what happens is students start talking, and then they start bringing up other stuff that they didn't put into their draft. And now you're entering new information, and the committee wants to be like, well, you talking about this, but you didn't put it in your dissertation. Well, we shouldn't even be at the defense. If we're going to be talking about stuff that's not in the dissertation, let's reschedule this. Answer the question that was asked. And if somebody asked you something, which she also did a good job at yesterday, if they ask you something that ain't got nothing to do with what you were talking about, like, why didn't you use this theory? Or why didn't you do it this way? You know what? That's a great point. That's a great point to consider for the future. But as for the scope of this project, I just focused on XYZ. Redirect, move on. Every question doesn't need to be answered. Thank you for that. I will consider that later. I will consider that for future manuscripts. I will consider that for the next project. Thank you so much. Yes, it applies to proposal defenses too. Ask the question, answer the question that was asked. Because a lot of times what will happen is the committee will start talking amongst themselves. I'm going to save this other part for later. They will start talking amongst themselves and they'll be like, well, I think she should do this. Well, I'm thinking she should do this. You sit there, you smile, you look pretty, you drink your water, you don't talk, don't engage. Let me move this out the way. You just think you just sit there and watch them until somebody asks you a direct question or they tell you to do something directly. Because academics can go down a rabbit hole about the smallest of things. And if you go down there with them, with your nerves and your exhaustion, you may go to a different route and they might have changed your whole project. Your chair is there with you too, Heather. So I'm not trying to scare you. Your chair's job, they're not going to say too much. Their job is to protect you. Their job is, let me back all the way back, y'all. Okay. Let me rewind. When you go into, so when you have your defense, no matter what the defense is, typically what happens is everybody comes into the room. Your chair opens it up, says, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. We're here to support Heather about our dissertation defense. I'm going to ask everybody to step out the room so the committee can just talk amongst themselves. You're going to leave, whether you're on Zoom or in the physical room, you're going to leave that room. When it's just a committee, the chair is going to say, okay, you've had 2 weeks or whatever to review this. Are there any major concerns about this document? Are there any major concerns that will lead you, as you understand right now, to not pass this paper? Committee will say no, yes, or I just have some questions depending on how she responds about this, right? But your chair's job is to say, okay, how will this go? And what are some potential challenges or tensions? Because they should be thinking about, okay, how do I direct this conversation to ensure that you're not so nervous that you forget everything, that you do respond to your committee's major concern, and so that they can prepare themselves for whatever the response may be at the end. So they'll talk about that. Most of the time, those conversations are like, yeah, girl, what you do on Friday? Oh, nothing. The kids got on my nerves. Oh, I'm really excited about this paper. I think she did a beautiful job. I can't wait to hear about blah, blah, blah. And yeah, did you see that show? Like, they're talking about random things because they're friends. Most of them are friends. So they're like catching up, like they don't see each other. And so if you're outside for a long time, that doesn't mean anything. It just means they probably got distracted. And then the chair's going to be like, okay, let's bring her back in. That's probably like 15 or 20 minutes. To give you a ballpark, 15, 20 minutes of them having a conversation. Then you're going to come in and you're going to do your presentation, however long your chair gave you. Typically, presentations I have seen range from about 30 minutes to an hour. It just depends on your program culture and what your chair prefers. My chair was like, girl, get in or get out. We got to go home. I do not even want to be here. So I think my presentation was about 15, 20 minutes and I sat down. So it depends on, if you haven't had that conversation, Heather, just follow up with your chair and just ask how long do you have to present? So you would present. If it's your proposal defense, you want to focus on, here's the data I'm collecting. This is how I'm collecting the data. And this is why I'm collecting the data. The bulk of your presentation needs to be about those questions. We do not care about your literature. We do not care about why you came to this work. We just need about a slide on each of those. Let me say it again for the people multitasking in the back. A slide on why you're doing this and a slide on your literature. Everything else, what is the data you're collecting? How are you collecting it? And why are you doing that? For your final defense, we don't care about what you told us in the proposal. We were there. We read it. What we care about is, what are your findings? Give us a quote. One. Everybody, repeat 1 quote per finding. We don't, because you don't got time to go down a rabbit hole. We got like a good quote, maybe a cute table. We don't got enough time for you to talk about everything. Even if your chair gave you an hour, you think that's a lot of time. It is not a lot of time. It's not, I promise you. So about what your findings are, one quote per finding. And then you want to spend more time on a discussion. What does this mean? So you told us what you found. What does it mean? What should we do with it? What happens next? What should we research next? So thinking about your discussion, your implications, your recommendations. And then if it's your proposal defense at the end, so leave your thank yous for both defenses. Leave your thank yous to the end, especially if it's your final defense. Your acknowledgments and your thank yous at the end. Do not open up your presentation with a thank you because you're going to be crying and then you're going to be a mess the entire presentation. We do that at the end so you can cry while they ask you questions. So thank yous at the end for your proposal defense. You just want to say, here's what I hope to get from this. Here's what I hope to find. Or this is how I hope to grow. If it's your final defense, you want to say, here's where I hope to publish. Here's how I hope to continue this work. But also at this point when you're doing your thank yous, it's more emotional because usually people are in the room with you, you know. And then you'll end, and then your chair will say, okay, thank you so much. Now I'm going to open it up to the committee. And based on the conversation they had in the beginning about who had what concerns, your chair is probably going to go to the person who had the biggest concerns first to ensure that y'all have enough time to talk about it. This is not a hard and fast science, but it's just what I've noticed watching so many defenses. Usually you go to the person who got all the things, or if your chair is trying to be strategic and they know that person is problematic, they go to the person who's nice. You could talk to your chair ahead of time. You could say, hey, can you go to the person or ask a question, give me a softball before y'all get to the hard ones because I'm nervous. You could tell your chair that. You could say, I don't like when that person talked to me. Can you have that person talk first? You could do that. It depends on what you need. But usually your chair would go and say, such and such had a question about your findings one. I'm going to pass it off to them. Most of your committee, on average, you're going to have about 2 to 5 questions. They're probably going to try to stick to like 2 or 3 because of time. It's going to take them, you could probably expect about, on average, like 5 to 10 minutes per question because it takes them a while to get the question out. And you need to think about it and then you need to respond. It is okay if you are thinking as you are speaking, meaning you're like thinking out loud and then you say, let me say that a different way. Here's my more succinct answer. That is okay. You can say, hey, give me a moment. I want to write down some notes. But here's what I suggest. When someone asks you a question, pause, breathe, say, I understand your question to be this. Is that correct? Repeat their question back to them in your framing. For yourself, you say, oh, thank you. Such a beautiful question. Here are the 3 things I'm going to talk about in responding to that question. So what I try to do is have like a notebook or like a sheet of paper next to me. And as they're asking their question, I'm like, okay, this is the question. And I might even say, give me a minute. I just want to gather my thoughts. And that's me gathering my thoughts. I'm saying, here are the 3 things or the 2 things I want to make sure I talk about in responding to this question. That allows you to have a thoughtful response. It also gives you time to breathe because you're nervous. So you're going to say, okay, I'm going to talk about this. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about that. You respond to them and they say, oh, okay, thank you. Well, I have a follow-up or my next question. And then you just repeat that process. Each person will ask. And then when they get into the fun questions of like, oh, Heather, this is so great. So what's next for you? Now everybody's going to be popcorning. Okay. They're going to be like, oh, I'm so excited. I want to publish with you on this. And I want to publish. Say, thank you. I'm going to take that under advisement. I'm not going to agree to nothing right now. Hey, do not agree to publishing with anybody in a defense. Don't do that. You're not in a mental space to know if you're giving a yes you want to give. But people will capitalize off your excitement and your nervousness during the defense and try to get you to commit to a publication with them. Say, yeah, we could talk about it. We definitely can follow up and talk about it. That's your line. Don't be giving your work out to people, okay? Because there are some predators who will say, I could be second author and they did no work. Okay, let me not go down that rabbit hole. Okay, so after the committee has a chance to ask their questions, then your chair will say, are there questions from the audience? If you have invited your family in them, okay, just know your family gonna raise their hand. These are my favorite moments in a defense. Okay, my favorite. When the family start asking questions, my favorite. Because they don't care about nobody's academia. They don't care about nobody's culture. They're like, Heather, you look at you. You wrote a whole book. How you feeling, girl? And then you can just talk to your family. Right? My favorite part is the Zoom and the family and everybody's on Zoom and then the camera's up the nose. It's my favorite. Right? But usually your doctor friends. Now, if you have a particularly like tense committee or things are not going well, this is when you want to invite your doctor friends, because your doctor friends are going to be like, not today, not on my watch. I'm good to be like, let me raise my hand and ask a question and get this back on track, because they got all of us messed up, right? Because your doctor friends know, they know what to listen for. So you can have someone in there and they're probably going to do it naturally, but we'll ask you a question so that you can shine. Because your committee is not going to always ask you the questions that you can shine. Like your friends, though, going to ask the questions. But if things are going well or if it went wrong, like yesterday for Natasha's defense, we were all under one degree. We're not asking no questions. We already over time. I'm not asking questions. We want her to get to her decision. So, you could tell your friends that. So they'll say, audience, if there's time, audience, do you have any questions? Once that's done, they say, okay, everybody leave the room. You leave the room again. And so this conversation, the chair's like, you've heard her responses. You have 4 options to choose from. You can say does not pass, does not successfully pass. That's option 1. Option 2 is pass with major revisions. Option 3 is pass with minor revisions. And option 4 is pass with no revisions. And each person is going to give their vote. The goal is to get to consensus, to agree. And once they do that, they might be like, I agree she passed, but I want her to do X, Y, Z, or work on this before submitting it to the graduate school. They'll make their decision. When your chair comes and gets you, if you pass, when the door opens, it's congratulations, doctor. If you didn't, they're like, come in, sit down, let's talk about it. And they might be like, you might not have passed. Here's what we want you to work on. Most of the time, if it's a decision about you're not passing, it's usually rewrite this section, give it to your chair, and then your chair can decide that you pass. That's most of the time. If it's a flat out, we don't even understand what's happening, you don't pass. I think I may have seen this once. If a person didn't pass at all, it's because they had to rework their data and rewrite the findings in the discussion chapter, and then they had to defend again. But like I said, I only seen that once in the past 8 years. But most of the time, nobody wants you to go into that room. They say, yay, they may ask you to sit down and review their feedback, and they just tell you, they may tell everybody to leave and give you the feedback, or they may say, we'll talk later, or we gave it to your chair. But usually the day is over at that point, and you can celebrate. Some other things I want to say, I know I'm giving you a lot. I'm going to stop talking after this. Find you a friend. Give a friend, a family member, the job of being your assistant for the day. You don't need to be the person everybody is texting about. Now, what room is it? And what's the Zoom link? And what time is it? Delegate that to somebody else. That person or another person can be responsible making sure that you are dressed, that you are in the place, that you have your snacks and your drinks. Now, you might be thinking, I'm going to be fine. No, you won't. You probably won't sleep the night before. That's okay. You probably would be like, I don't even know. I can't even put words together. That's okay. That's why you need a friend to help you get to the place you need to get to. And that friend to be there with you maybe an hour early to make sure you're in the room. The PowerPoint can come up. You are settled. So I got to my room an hour early. I have my diffuser. Okay. I have music going. I just needed to I just couldn't, I don't know. I felt like I couldn't think straight. My mouth was dry. It was a lot. I just need to sit there. Whatever you need to feel calm, that's what you need. And then for real, my last tip is practice. Practice as much as you need to. It is helpful if you can practice in front of people. It can be one person. It's not so much about that person understands what you're talking about as it is about, are you okay with going through your presentation and knowing what it is that you want to say? Okay, I know I gave a lot. Thoughts, questions, reactions. Was that helpful?
No, that was crazy helpful. I hadn't even thought of having somebody else help people get to the venue, like to the school education or the link or any of that. I hadn't thought of any of that. And I definitely didn't plan to go in there with some water or some snacks, which I know I'll need, because even now I'm like freaking out just a little bit. I'm a tad bit nervous as I'm even putting this together.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay.
And if you, I also tell people to have something in front of them. Like I have pictures of my nieces because I knew if I looked at them, I would smile. It would help relax me.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, it's other items. I need something to fidget with, so I had a fidget toy because I get nervous and I need something.
Am I standing the whole time?
You might. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Natasha stood. I stood for a few minutes and sat down and was like, I'm too nervous to stand. I'm about to pass out. See, I'm gonna sit here.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I have 3 doctor friends going. One will be in person, one is online.
Mm-hmm.
2 will be online. So I have that together. Okay. And they're definite advocates. They're not gonna let nothing. And then one of my committee members is my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not gonna let. I don't think he would. Oh my God.
Listen, that's also my favorite part to watch. You probably wouldn't be able to watch it as a person doing the defense, but if you are, for other people, as you watch other defenses, I want you to pay attention to committee dynamics. My favorite thing to watch, because especially when 2 people don't like each other, it's the best thing to watch, because when somebody tries to go after you academically, this is what I mean. When your committee starts talking to each other, you don't know what's happening. Right? They may be, quote unquote, debating something about your dissertation, but that conversation may not be about your dissertation. It may be about an argument they had at a faculty meeting. Does it make sense? Like sometimes we have conversations that are not the conversation we're really having. So that's another reason why I don't want you to get into the middle of committees talking, because let them talk. You don't know what the drama is. And you don't know who's reading who. They know. And you might feel the tension. You may mistakenly think it's a tension towards you and it's about them. They don't like each other. They just came from another committee, like a defense. They both were on the committee and they got irritated with each other. You don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Okay.
No
one's gotten to know the outside committee member. Like Pauline, she's like, what's his name again? And then there's a new committee member because an original member left the university. So they're totally disjointed. I don't know how this is going to look.
They'll be cute, professional.
Okay.
Yeah. As someone who's been on many committees as the outside member, I just show up and be like, I'm just a dissertation coach. Yeah, no. What school? I don't work at any school. Like I just play into it fully. So she's probably going to be like, whatever, I'm just here. I'm going to ask my questions. And usually those are where the best questions come from. Your outside person, because they're not doing politics or anything of that. They just truly want you to do good work.
Okay. This is going to be exciting.
It's so exciting. And choose where you're going to go afterwards. Don't go back to work.
That whole day is off. Okay. I might even take the day off, the day before off.
Great.
They might ask me for 2 days. Yeah.
That's great. Yes. But decide where you're going to go, because everybody's going to be like, so what are we doing next? That's a good thing for your person, your assistant. Where are we going next? Tell everybody.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited. I'm excited for all of y'all. I hope everyone else who's preparing for their defenses, that was helpful. I hope I didn't scare you too much. I just want you to be prepared. Okay. Next Thursday, we will not have a call because we will be having the 10 pages in 2 days writing retreat on the 29th and the 30th. I will be focusing on the findings and discussion chapter. So please bring your final chapters because most of y'all are there. So that's what we're going to talk about during the 2 days. We're going to focus on applying scholar writing routine to the final chapters. And I've been learning so much and coaching folks this time around in terms of findings chapter. And so I'm most likely going to do a brief presentation on how do you figure out your findings from making sure that your research design is in alignment. This mostly comes up with qualitative folks because quantitative and mixed methods, you already had to do the thinking about what you were focusing on and what you're going to measure and what it means. So you've already done that work. But in qualitative research, we do that on the back end. And if you come from an institution or a program where it's not that strong in qualitative research, this is why I want to do this presentation. Because I've just been learning that for a lot of you, the reasons why the findings are hard is because you don't know how to map it back to your theoretical or your conceptual framework, to your purpose, to your questions. There's an alignment that has to happen. So we're going to talk about that. And this weekend, this Saturday, the 22nd and the 23rd, if you have a podcast, a blog, any other social media content, I am doing 30 posts in 2 days. I'm going to take you through my content creation process because I've been sick for the past 2 weeks. I haven't been able to show up online, but you see my post online. That's because I got a batching system that works. So I'm going to be teaching that over the weekend. Even if you want to come, y'all, and you just want to write, I'll open up some breakout rooms because I know Virginia, I know you like hanging out no matter what the call is. So just know that there will be breakout rooms. You should have gotten an email, but I'm going to send another one tomorrow, just telling you the links of how to access that. If you are not in Finish Your Dissertation or Simple Business Institute, I invite you to join us. You can definitely join us for the 10 pages in 2 days writing retreat by going to qualscholars.com/10 pages and signing up. For those of you in FYD, I want you to bring a friend. Okay. They do not need to do anything. They will need to register when you give them the link. But I want you to invite one friend. I want you to invite that friend. And if y'all are on, those of you on Instagram and YouTube, if you want to make a friend in FYD so they can invite you, feel free. But I want you to invite that friend who you've been telling about, FYD and how helpful. And they've been like, that's good for you, girl, but I don't need that. Invite that friend. Because I like those friends. Those friends who think they can do it by themselves, even though they've been in the same place for the past 8 months while you've been zooming through milestones. Invite that friend. Yeah, that was a little shady. But hey. And I know y'all like this for astrological report. Okay, last week we are in what's called eclipse season. Like 2 to 3 times a year, we have eclipses. Either the moon is hidden or the sun is hidden. Eclipses are a time of anything can happen. Okay, random things can happen. One day I was watching there was a TikTok and this girl was like, y'all, in January I made a TikTok that said, I'm 40 and I'm not married. I don't have kids. I don't know what I'm gonna do in my life. I need to figure out what to do in my life. And 2 months later, she has a whole baby that she's about to adopt because a family member needed help. That's the type of thing I mean. Like one day your life is one way, the next day it changed. We had a full moon or lunar eclipse last week in Virgo. So it is about releasing your need to be perfect, your need to focus on the details, your need to try to make a relationship work or a goal work that's not working. It's not. You didn't try everything, you didn't work overtime, and it's not working and it's letting it go. It's like removing yourself from places and situations where the people just don't appreciate you. And no matter how much you try to bend over backwards to be who they want you to be, you're tired. So it's like, let that go. Full moons are about letting things go. Next week, or the 29th, we will have the second eclipse, and that's going to be a new moon in Aries. And so it is about how can you allow yourself to be bold, unapologetic. And if you got to be the villain in somebody's story, then so be it. Because at this point, we don't got no energy. There's also something that you said you wanted to do, a big goal, a big position, some big thing that you said you wanted to do about 2 years ago, that you said it wasn't the right time or you wasn't qualified enough or you didn't have enough resources. Over the next 2 years, you will be forced to do it. So you can decide now to do it on purpose, or you can let the universe do it for you. So that is the thing I have for you in terms of astrology. Just know that this is a time of great revelations. Pay attention to what you're thinking about, who you feel yourself wanting to talk to, places you feel yourself wanting to go into, because that's giving you some information. Okay. For me, a little bit, if you want to know, I have been closing things down on my MarvetteLacy.com side of things. I've been focusing solely on Qual Scholars. I even started, Danielle, you'll be happy to know that I started a Shopify store. There are products going in so people could order shirts and things.
I saw it.
And yeah, that's part of what, and I want to grow the podcast, Office Hours with Dr. Lacy, into a full YouTube show. So I'm saying this out loud so y'all can hold me accountable. So that's part of what that's been coming up for me. And to talk more about astrology. I just thought I'd be annoying y'all, but like I've been getting so many questions over the past couple of weeks. So like, so what's happening? And so I want to talk about astrology as it relates to dissertating and higher education and what's going on in the world, because it talks about that too.
Dr. Lacy, just with regard to your astrology, when you confirm, like when I said I had a tower moment and you were like, girl, it all had to come down, crashing down. I was like, somebody understands me. It's not annoying at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. And so then I'll say this to you. From an astrological point of view, we need your school more than ever, because we're going to a place where we're going to have to educate our own kids, because there won't be a central like framework. As we know now, right? The Department of Education is being dissolved, right? That's only going to continue. And we're going to go back to a time where how do you teach within your own community? So bringing your teachers in your community to one place and bringing your kids there, more private schools, charter schools, like it's yeah. So we need.
Can I share something with you I was going to do for my dissertation defense?
Yeah.
My grandmother started teaching in 1918.
Oh wow.
In Lake Village, Arkansas, little itty bitty place on Lake Chico. She has a brass bell where she would ring the bell, and I was going to take that bell to the defense with me.
Oh, I love that. I would be boo-hooing. They'd be like, do you need a minute? I need several.
So yeah, that bell is coming with me to the defense. She'll be in the room.
I love that. Yes. You should definitely open and tell people that story. Like, I think that would be a beautiful opening. I want to say Kalia. Yeah, Dr. I. How she opened in a similar way of like talking about women in her family and like what this moment means, and how she brought in her like spiritual practices. And yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. You can set the tone of a defense. It doesn't matter, y'all, that it's in this formal process. You get to make it your own. They'll be all right. Please let us know how things go. If y'all see Tasha wearing on the she passed her proposal defense, I think she put that in circle too. So we are in the season, and if you are someone who is not quite at defense yet and you're feeling a little bit bad about being behind, please don't. Please take care of yourself. If you need to cut off the internet, cut it off. If you need not to come to a call because you can't take anybody's good news, that does not make you a bad person. Cut it off. Take care of yourself. Okay. And with that, I'm going to let y'all go. I hope to see you on Saturday if you're coming. And if not, I will see y'all next Saturday. Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Dr. Lacy.
Thank you.
Good night.